Assalamu alaikum. Today I am going to teach you first lesson of history, the rise of nationalism in Europe. So this lesson is starting with a picture that was drawn by Frederic Souriau, a French artist, in 1848. He prepared 4 series of prints and he called as Democratic and Social Republic. So during this period in Europe there was no nation state like we seen today as Italy, Germany. These people were under the control of a big empire or a kingdom. So he prepared 4 series of print. In our textbook, it had shown the first series. So we have to learn about the first series. Let us learn about the first series, what he had shown. He shows the people of Europe, America, men and women of all ages and social classes marching in a long train. When these people reached near the Statue of Liberty, they all had shown respect towards the Statue of Liberty. So let's see what she had carried. The Statue of Liberty carried in one hand Torch of Enlightenment, in another hand she carried Charter of the Rights of Man. You can also see that many images shattered on the ground. So these images symbols absolute institutions. Absolute institutions means monarchical form of government that was centralized, militarized or repressive government. Next you can see that in Souriau's utopian vision, the people of the world are grouped as a distinct nations identified through their flags and national costumes. What is a utopian vision? Utopian means a vision of society that is so ideal that is unlikely to exist. So in Frederic Souriau's utopian vision, people of Europe or America or world are grouped into different nations and they were identified through their national flag and costumes. So why it is known as a utopian vision? Because during this period there was no nation state, the people were not identified through their flag or national costumes. So this is the dream of Frederic Souriau. So a utopian means a vision of a society that is so ideal that is unlikely to exist. So you can imagine we people of Kerala celebrate Onam. So there was a story behind the Onam celebration. So we believed that there was a period in Kerala long years back. There was ideal society. There was no problem under the ruler Mahabali. So we believed so. So such society. People were very happy under the Mahabali, so there was no theft. So just like such society, ideal society we call as, the vision of such society we call as utopian vision. So that is because in his Souriau's utopian vision, he had shown that the people of Europe and America or world are grouped into different nations and they were identified through their national costumes and flags. But that period was not, there is no chance to identify these people like. So that was the reason it had shown as a utopian vision. And this marching was leading by Switzerland and America because they already became a nation state. So that was the reason this marching was leading by these 2 countries, and they were followed by France, Germany and many other countries. You can also see in the picture above on the sky, Christ and angels were watching. They were gaze upon this marching. So they were so curious. They were interestingly watching this marching because they were happy to see this. So there was this is about the picture that was drawn by Frederic Souriau in 1848. In the picture you have learned that Frederic Souriau had shown that his dream of a nationalism and nation state. So what's a nationalism? Nationalism is a feeling of oneness or patriotic feeling towards our nation. So what's a nation state? Nation state means a state have its own people, its own boundary or a government or its own people and language or culture or history. Okay, these all having one country we can call as a nation state. A nation state means a state or a country having its own people, its own boundary, language, okay, culture. So when it have its own, these all have, we can call it as a nation state. Next topic is the rise of nationalism in Europe. The first clear-cut expression of nationalism came with the French Revolution in 1789. And after the French Revolution, there was a big change happened in France. So before 1789, there was a rule of absolute monarchy in France. And after that, the political and constitutional changes that came in the wake of French Revolution led to the transfer of sovereignty from the monarchy to a body of French citizens. The revolution proclaimed that it was the people who would henceforth constitute the nation and shape its destiny. After the French Revolution, people got the power. There came democracy, and now the people could decide the destiny of their country. That was a big change. After the French Revolution, there happened a big change in the France. Now the people got the power, they start the democracy, and also now they can decide the destiny of their country. That was a big change happened after the French Revolution. And what the people of France did to create the feeling of oneness among the French people? What was the role of revolutionary leaders in creating collective identity among the French group? The first they have done, the idea of la patrie, les citoyens, emphasized the notion of a united community enjoying equal rights under a constitution. A new French flag, the tricolor, was chosen to replace the former royal standard. The Estates General was elected by the body of active citizens and renamed as National Assembly. New hymns were composed, oaths were taken, martyrs were commemorated, all in the name of the nation. A centralized administrative system was put up in place and it formulated and uniform laws for all citizens within the territory. When it's a territory, internal customs, duties and dues were abolished. A uniform of weight and measurement was adopted. Regional dialects were discouraged, and French, as it was spoken and written in Paris, became the common language for the nation. The next is about Napoleonic Code. While you were in 9th standard, you have learned about falling of Jacobins Club, and after the falling of Jacobins Club, there was rule of Directory Board, but there was no unity among the officials. So that was the reason it gave a chance to Napoleon to conquer the France. So when the Napoleon started the rule in 1804 in France, he brought some administrative measures. So these points are showing the administrative measures have started by or implemented by Napoleon during his period. And he implemented these measures in different areas he was conquered in Europe, and he assigned soldiers to implement these measures in these areas. So let us understand the limitations or shortcomings of this code. In the beginning, the people were very happy. They were welcomed soldiers as a harbingers of liberty. So, however, in the areas conquered, the reactions of the local populations of French rule were mixed. Initially, in many places such Holland or Switzerland, as well as in certain cities like Brussels, French armies were welcomed as a harbingers of liberty. That means symbols or a signal of liberty. So this initial enthusiasm soon turned into hostility. Why? Let us see why it is so. Because it became clear that the new administrative arrangements did not go hand in hand with political freedom. So under Napoleon, people did not get freedom. There was no political freedom. And not only that, he increased taxation, censorship, and forcefully recruited people into army. His big dream was conquer the world. So he need much armies, soldiers to help him to conquer the world. So that's because without the permission of people, he recruited people into army. So that was the reason the initial enthusiasm soon turned into hostility. People go against his administrative measures and go against Napoleon. The next topic is Europe, a patchwork of different regions and dialects. If you look at the map of mid-18th century, Europe will find that there were no nation state as we know today. Just like Germany, Spain or Italy. But these all were under the control of one-man rule, and this ruler was controlling a big empire, a big territory in different parts of Europe, not only in different parts of Europe, out of the Europe also. So let us take the example of Habsburg Empire, how it was. Most of the parts of Europe was ruled by kingdoms, cantons and duchies. For example, the Habsburg Empire ruled over Austria, Hungary, Tyrol, Switzerland and Bohemia, etc. Mostly the people in different territories spoke different dialects. The aristocrats, German language. Lombardy and Venetia, they are speaking Italian language. Hungary, Magyar language. Galicia, they spoke Polish language. The next is about the European society. Socially and politically, a landed aristocracy was the dominant class on the continent. Aristocracy was the dominant class in Europe. So the members of this class were united by a common way of life that cut across regional divisions, and these people owned estates in the countryside and also townhouses. They spoke French for purpose of diplomacy and in high society, and they set up marriage contacts within their social status. Next social group was middle class. So this was a group emerged just after the Industrial Revolution. Industrial Revolution first started in England during the 18th century. In other parts of Europe, it was occurred only during 19th century. So with the French Industrial Revolution, a new group, society or a social group was emerged in Europe. They were known as middle class. For example, industrialists, professionals, merchants, working class. So they are known as businessmen, like people known as middle class. And it was among these middle class, educated, liberal middle classes, the idea of nationalism first gained popularity. Another social class was the peasants. The majority of population was made up of peasants. To the west, the bulk of land was cultivated by tenants and small owners, while in eastern and central part of Europe, the land was cultivated by serfs or slaves.